Welcome on in, everyone. It's Malliem back with another weekly horror story. If you've got a story you'd like to share, feel free to post it to my subreddit linked below. We're picking back up with Murder is Legal in My Town, but I Am Yet to Kill Someone, Part 5. Don't forget to leave a comment if you want the series to continue, and let me know if there's a Part 6. If you enjoy the show, hit that sub button for me. It helps a lot. Thanks! Trigger warning for child harm. I had no idea just how deep darkroom was rooted inside all of us, including my parents' murderer, my classmate since we were little kids, and one of darkroom's biggest assets. What did you just say? He said it again, louder this time, panting through sharp breaths twisting in his throat. His words were more of a slur, and I sensed his desperation to hold on to every letter, to string them together and spit out something comprehensible. A victim of the screen in front of him, Kane Sinclair was giving in to the bleeding darkness leaching into his mind, and the man's words had been the catalyst. Swimming through suffocating red, trying to pull him down, he strained against a malevolent force poisoning his thoughts. The man resumed pressing 2 metal prods into his skull, but the pain suddenly didn't mean anything. Neither did the screen in front of him. Shock value, young man. I'm sure our audience wasn't expecting that plot twist. Yes, Kane, an environment was required for the project to work, and you were given a father and a brother. Attachment is vital. When Kane let out a howl of agony, the man leaned back. I don't know why you're crying. Elias and Daniel were nothing but glorified performers. The screen flashed to footage from the point of view of the attacker, and I knew exactly where the camera was. I saw a man kneeling in front of him, wide-eyed, before an arm swung at him with something blunt, slamming into the back of his skull and sending him crumpling to the ground. When he tried to get back up, the arm came down again, more violently, and it kept going and going until the growing pool of crimson on the floor soaked the bottoms of the boy's feet. I saw the boy crouch in front of his dead father, pressing 2 fingers into the pooling red before stepping over the body, glancing warily at his feet as he tracked blood across white tiles. His hands delved into the kitchen drawer, fingers wrapped around a sturdy carving knife. With a strange, dreamlike bounce in his step, he returned to the kitchen, dropped to his knees, and crawled toward his father. Please, Kane panted, hyperventilating, pulling until his body arched before slamming back down. The boy barely felt a third intrusion entering his skull. The man conducting the procedure chuckled. See, it's funny. Here you are, in vivid clarity, committing an act so nefarious and you can't even watch it. Well, for our audience watching at home, what I am doing is what you may refer to as a lobotomy. But while I'm sure you know lobotomies are known to completely inebriate the patient, I am not doing that. What I am doing is pressing the pressure points inside his brain. With practice, it can be tricked. For example, if I were to project a movie of puppy dogs, your mind would react in a positive way. You would feel happiness and joy. Because puppy dogs are cute. Alternatively, if I show you footage of yourself in a fugue state murdering your family when you do not have control, you will react in a negative way. He slapped Kane when he screamed, battling against the restraints. That's not the reaction I want. The footage continued, showing Kane prodding at the raw bone of his father's skull. But what I am doing right now is tricking the brain into thinking it is feeling positively. Observe. This time, Kane felt them in full force, both intrusions, narrow metallic rods rubbing against each other. His eyes flickered, momentarily flashing to the ceiling before finding the screen once more. He stopped struggling, losing all control in his limbs. Let me go. His mental voice was a whimper, like footprints in the snow. I sensed his thoughts being choked by a darkness spreading through him, but parts of him were still holding on. Parts that knew he had a family, knew it wasn't his fault, knew something was wrong, and were desperately clinging to consciousness. But before he could cry out, that pooling black suffocated him. When the man quickened his movements, stabbing pressure points, Kane slipped. Those thoughts became darker, less painful, less human, and something irreversible tore through him. When he finally gave up, his phantom grip slipping from the mental anchor he clung to, and his real fingers loosening from the steel edge of the bed, I felt a suffocating wave wash over him, as if he would welcome that vicious sea of red into his mind. His thoughts became nonsensical, a cocktail of memories. His brother, his father, good ones, vacations, small moments he treasured. Then they glitched, twisting into their murders in full clarity. His vision blurred. His wrists went limp. He thought about his brother, about how the knife had zigzagged across his throat in a simple jerking motion, and his lips began to stretch. Not quite a smile, but close. Instead of pushing the memories away, he welcomed them. I think he let go to escape the pain, the thinking, the questions about his existence. He started to giggle, blood spilling from his mouth and nose. Numb. Every thought burned away. Then he came back. This time, his wrists hung limp in their restraints. With unblinking eyes, he watched himself slam his younger brother into a wall and stab him in the throat, slicing it open. No horror, no disgust, no agony. Something new. Something poisonous. He laughed. Just once. Nothing else. It wasn't real. His mental voice was hysterical. They weren't real. That final thought only fed the darkness. The huh turned into a childish giggle, tears still staining his cheeks. And that confused him. Because it was funny. So funny. The way his father cried, begged. The way his brother pleaded. These fakes, these people he had lived with his whole life. People he had cared about. Not real? This time he watched in exhilaration, like he was on the edge of his seat. And as his body lurched forward, I realized he was. The boy's eyes were pinned to the screen. His lips slowly split into a smile, then a grin. When the footage stopped, he let out a sound of disdain. Like a child. Like all logic had been ripped away, leaving only something small and broken. A second and third metallic rod entered his skull. His screams twisted into choke sobbing. then laughter. Pained giggles that racked through him. A vicious cocktail of agony combined with that final, straying thought inside his mind set every other thought alight. And then there was only gibberish. Gibberish I couldn't make out, nonsensical words and questions and answers cracking his mind open. When his body stopped rattling, his wrists going limp where they were strapped down, I felt all he had been rotting away inside the dark which had taken hold of his mind, an insanity blossoming inside his broken mind. Do you want to watch it again? The bed reclined up, and he was shaking, giggling to himself. The memory's tone had darkened. Initially it was dim, yellowish, matching the boy's personality, his skepticism and anxiety curling in the pit of his gut. Now, though, it was hard to see through a choking darkness which had taken over. "Tell our audience, Kane," the man said loudly. "How did that make you feel?" Kane hummed in a sing-song. "I killed them," he whispered. "I killed them. Didn't I?" His body strained against the straps. "I carved them up. I split open their skulls, and I wanted to see what my dad's brain looked like, how he ticks and what thoughts look like. I wanted to see them cut into pieces. And you..." A sharp, hysterical bout of laughter shocked me, and it started to hit me that this boy had been altered beyond my imagining. His gaze found the ceiling, where a speaker was. "You turned me into that." Kane spoke directly to the man and the viewers. "You turned me into this." We did. But again, for the 50,000 viewers watching, how did it make you feel? "It made me feel..." Kane began to hum a song. Not one I recognized, more of a mash of random ones he'd come across. He paused. "Kane, answer the question." "Good." His hands flexed, pulling from the restraints. His laughter grew maniacal, and he scratched his face until his own skin was stuck under his nails. "It made me feel really good. Really good. Really good." He repeated the words as he threw his legs off the bed, and his body, swaying from side to side, slammed into the floor face first. But he didn't feel pain. When it did come in sharp pricks, it only exhilarated him further. Kane was well aware of the hole in the back of his head. He scratched at it with his fingers, giggling, before setting his sights on the man who had converted his thoughts to a deranged string of nothing. At first, the man didn't seem fazed, though his eyes were wary. I don't think patients were supposed to be able to get out of their restraints. But with Kane, a thought clung on, the exact thought which had sent him tumbling into the abyss. It drove his body, motivating a shattered mind. Fake. His voice was loud in my head, crashing into my skull. "I feel good," he repeated, wrapping his fingers around a bone saw which had been almost strategically placed on the silver table. From the look on the man's face, though, he had not been clued into this. The memory blurred for a second, like the boy was struggling to pull back from me and show me what happened. But whatever had entangled our minds was stronger. Our vision was foggy, or at least mine was. I had no idea what was happening, only aware of an intense smear of scarlet painting the scene. I was suddenly aware of Kane lunging for the man, his hands grasping around his neck and slamming him into the bed. I felt our fingers tightening, until the man's face was turning red, then blue and purple. I really want to know. Kane leaned forward. Can you tell me again? He cocked his head. What you told me earlier. The man struggled violently. What? You told me a secret, Kane murmured in a sing-song. That they weren't real. That they were fake. I want you to say it again, and 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 again. His thoughts crashed into me, a relentless icy wave. You... The man's lip curled into a scowl and Kane laughed gleefully. You're a fucking psycho. Kane leaned in close with a wide, cheesy grin and blew in his face. Fork found in kitchen. Your family wasn't real, the man whispered. They were performers, if you could call them that. I felt what should have been agony and confusion twisting into euphoria. Say it again! The man's expression contorted and he cried out. Get me out of here! He tried to speak professionally. Get me! His words morphed into a screech when the butt of the bone saw impacted his temple. But all of the sound had been sucked away, including the man's screams, when Kane dragged the still blade across the man's cheek. It was at the back of his pained howl when the sound came back in a sudden wave, and he was screaming, struggling, as Kane pinned his wrist down. I could feel exactly what the boy was feeling. He was reveling, intoxicating himself with the idea of hearing it again on a loop. My family was fake. He wanted to drown in those words. The man, meanwhile, was trying a last-ditch effort to escape, his frenzied eyes eyeing the saw's blades. He had gone from a professional doctor with triumph in his tone to a sweating mess of anxiety struggling for a way out. Dr. Trenta, please end the stream. I think something has gone wrong. He let out a high-pitched, if not nervous, laugh. I did tell you the initial implant was not attached correctly. The others have told you multiple times. The boy's brain keeps failing to fully submit. He's a lost cause. You're working with a corpse. Sinclair is not suitable for Brightwood. The voice over the intercom interjected, a burst of unrelenting static filling Kane's skull.
Does he look like a lost cause? You converted Yuna and Mino, even our favorite Luke Thompson. And yet you can't accept Kane. You did create him after all, Doctor.
The man's voice choked up. Please, just get him off me. The intercom voice laughed.
You knew the dangers of working with these influencers, and yet you chose to deliver the boy's treatment yourself. Which is your fault, Doctor? I did say Kane was a dog.
Kane snarled in response to his name, tipping his head back and laughing when the words poisoned his mind once again, blood filling his mouth. It was all he could think. His father and brother weren't real. "Dr. Trenta," the man hissed out. "I will gladly make a second donation, as long as you get him."
That's not going to happen, Simon. You've seen too much. Darkroom cannot risk you leaking information to the public.
Kane playfully prodded the man's forehead, giggling, and he broke down screaming, "Get this animal off me!" The man's professional composure slipped once again, and he let out a spluttered laugh. "Do you know who my family are? We funded this project."
Yes, and we thank your family for their generosity.
The intercom crackled.
However, we are no longer in need of your assistance.
He hesitated.
Goodbye, Simon. It's been, well, fun.
The man, Simon, stopped struggling, trying to beat the maniacal boy away with his fists. "Wait!"
Kane?
The boy felt the words like ecstasy running through him. He lurched back, still pinning the man's hands down, his nose flaring, fingers flexing. "Yes?"
Tear him apart.
"Okay." Kane's hands didn't shake when he brought the bone saw down on the man's neck, and red splattered his face. His smile only grew when layers of skin and muscle made way for bone, and when the man's screams stopped, he kept going, slicing the blade down the curve of his throat, then his chest, hysterical giggles escaping him.
Kane, stop. I think that's enough.
The man cleared his throat.
You really are exactly what we envisioned.
"He said my dad and brother weren't real," Kane said, carving out the man's eye with his fingers. "Can you tell me what he meant?"
It means exactly what you think it does.
The voice crackled.
Your father and brother were only doing what they were told. And you, like the others, have been part of this since you were a child.
He paused.
To be admitted into the Brightwood program, you needed the right kind of upbringing. A stable one. Of course, we intervened when necessary. In the end, we shaped you into exactly who you are.
My stomach twisted.
The boy who slaughtered his own family.
His voice dropped, quieter now, colder.
What we needed to prove, Kane, was that the moral restraints you were born with could be removed. And when we were sure what you had done was exactly what we wanted, you were ready for Red Room, where we would break you fully and completely. That is what we are doing.
Kane hummed, and this time there was no implosion of emotions inside him. So, not real. This time he used the butt of the saw, smashing it into the back of the man's head until slithers of brain began to appear. "Not real," he said in a whine. Kane's hands were trembling, and I could sense this overwhelming urge inside him to make others hurt. His tone was almost that of a child, like he had mentally regressed to the age of 10 years old. "Not real. Not real. Not real. Not real. Not real." Building emphasis, he was slamming the saw in shredded flesh and bone, no longer recognizable as a head. "Not real," he sang. So, what was real? This time he pried open what was left of the man's mouth and started to hack away the tongue. Nothing was real. All of it was fake. Fake, 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 fake. He was crying, but his mind was contorted and confused, and tears didn't make sense to him anymore. All that did make sense was slamming the bone saw down into the growing cavity in the man's head. It made him feel excited, exhilarated. If he did it again, he would feel something. He would feel happy, just like the footage of him killing his family had made him feel. So happy. "I want you to show me again," he said in a cry, continuing to beat the bone saw into the man's skull. "Show me again! I want to see them." Dropping to his knees, his head fell into his lap, and he was still laughing. Before he jumped back to his feet and turned his attention to the man's torso, plunging the spinning blade into his abdomen. "I want to see what I did to them." He swiped at his face with bloody hands, still smiling widely. "The fakes. I want to see what I did to them." He choked on a sob, a writhing giggle. Waving the bone saw in the air, the boy sang, before continuing to hack at flesh and body parts he hadn't touched. Again and again and again and again. "I want to see them!" Another voice took over the intercom.
"Someone please stop him!"
He kept going, cutting and slicing away at the man's bloody corpse, until shadows in white came to physically drag him away. When he was pulled into a different room and strapped to another chair, metal plates were attached to his head, something chunky and rubber lodged between his teeth. King laughed. He didn't stop laughing, even when they filled his body and brain with bolts of electricity, which made him scream, his body rattling, his bruising wrists under restraints which became permanent. It was every day. The screen of red soaked him, and he laughed. A voice told him he was going to be okay, and he laughed at that. The intercom's voice filled our ears, and it was much closer when his laughter choked, becoming feeble giggles before spluttering out completely.
"This is a blip, Kane. Just a minor blip."
The voice continued, strangely soft, almost fatherly, during every session when his mind was ripped apart and pieced back together.
"This won't be forever."
The man had promised, and Kane, or at least what was left of him, had held on to that for dear life. I was left in the dark for what felt like an eternity, while his mind became darker and darker, a cavern I didn't want to inch towards. It wasn't until a sharp prick of light pinpointed my vision, and I felt lighter. No, the boy's mind was lighter. When another memory enveloped me, one which felt less depressing. This time, Kane was sitting in a large room, like a control room, with large screens surrounding him. In front of him was a glass of juice, or maybe wine, from the sour taste in his mouth. This time he was playing with his phone in his lap, mindlessly scrolling through Instagram. Kane Elias Sinclair. The voice was from the intercom, but this time it was much closer. It's not polite to be on your phone during a meeting. Kane didn't respond, far too interested in a video of a cat with a filter on its face. He chuckled, tapping the like button. His hands were slick with blood. I felt it wet on his palms, though it didn't faze him. Immediately, I sensed a change in his state of mind. Still polluted and poisoned from the Red Room and his ultimate conversion, but more stable and somehow different. Emotions which had been drowned out by the procedure were starting to prick back to fruition, slowly. It was almost like the boy's mind was trying to fix itself. Kane. Finally, he lifted his head and snorted. There was a smartly dressed man smiling through a grimace sitting in front of him, this time patiently sipping from a beer. Dr. Trenta. Kane viewed the man as a father. Look at this baby. He held the phone up, waving the screen. That's a cute kitty. Kane. The voice was growing impatient. Get a hold of yourself. That's not my name, asshole, Kane murmured. We're in Brightwood, remember? Fine. If you are going to be a stubborn child. The man tapped his fingers on the table. Jonas. Jonas. Once I had heard his name, I tried to pull from the memory, because knowing and remembering it was him, again and again, it didn't matter how many times they wiped my memory. It still hurt. Despite my attempts, though, I was stuck. I was stuck inside a classmate's memory, who was more attached to Brightwood than I ever could have known. Look at me when I'm talking to you. The man snapped when the boy's attention flicked back to his phone. Mr. Sinclair, ever since being inserted into the Brightwood program, you've become... Kane shrugged. Relax. I'm not going to go on a massacre out of nowhere. He rested his feet on the table. Appreciate the slow burn, man. I'm going to ask you again. Trenta leaned forward. Is the implant hurting you at all? Because the way you reacted to killing Jessa was not expected. Did you feel regret at all? Because if so, you should tell us so we can remove the implant. Jonas Isaacs is a beloved part of Brightwood, yes. But he is also, let's say, weak. You've killed once, and your reaction to that kill has worried us. You were visibly scared. Brightwood residents are not scared. They do not fear death. In a heartbeat, Kane lunged across the table, teeth bared. Say that again, and I'll slice you open. Trenta was unfazed. He sighed. I write your paychecks, Mr. Sinclair. Enough with the teenage melodrama. It's exhausting. Kane retracted, slumping back in his chair. I'm your cash cow. You wouldn't dare drop me. His lips curled into a smirk. You give me orders and I fucking bark. The boy laughed and actually barked. Woo! He tapped the table rhythmically. So what's the freaking problem, huh? Didn't you know I literally have trauma from this place? He mocked a cry. It was more of a sim thing, to act like a Kelly influencer, but it was fun to mimic. Oh my god, I'm like literally shaking being so close to the room that fried my fucking brains. The man sighed. Kane, that's enough. You are 18 years old. Act like it. Kane giggled. I wasn't when you lobotomized me. Trenta's sigh was loud, exaggerated. Pay attention when I am speaking to you. What? You freaked out when you murdered Jessa, Trenta stated. That is not what our viewers want to see. The boy scoffed. Sounds like a you problem, bro. Kane. Something red-hot ignited, skittering across his skull. My name is Jonas, asshole. His hands were suddenly trembling in his lap, fingernails scratching at the flesh of his palms. Something ran from his nose, and he swiped at it with his sweater. Trenta hissed out, Is that blood? Yeah, relax. It's a fucking nosebleed. King laughed, leaning forward. I'm sorry, am I, like, tripping right now? Where was this Karen supposed to worry when you fried my brain in that fucking death room and quite literally drilled the crazy from me. Kane, the man's tone darkened. Tell me the truth. Leaning across the desk, he came uncomfortably close. Ugh. He stunk of stale coffee and blood. Is Jonas in any way influencing your thoughts? We are fully aware of your sensitivity to our implants, but I must ask, is it hurting you? Yes. No. Sort of. Tears stung Kane's eyes and he swiped them away angrily. Because crying. Was he really fucking crying? Had Jonas Isaacs really cut that deep into him? Fuck. His voice echoed, almost a cry, a sob. He hurts. He's killing me. But I want him to kill me. I want this disease, him, to swallow me up. The word choked his mouth, and that relentless pain continued racking his head, threatening to elicit a cry which he had been trying to hold down. But his scattered thoughts continued, much clearer than inside the red room. With Jonas, he didn't have to think about anything else, about killing and his duty to Darkroom. Not even his existence, a question which had been weighing on him for 2 years. The boy's mind was a heavenly delusion he was jealous of. Nothing existed but going to school and having friends and caring about whether he'd made junior varsity. He wanted to worry about homework and the teacher yelling at him. Sure, there were splinters in Brightwood which reminded him it wasn't a real town. He was more of a performer than a human being. But the times when there was no killing, and it was just him in his bedroom listening to music on the outdated radio, or hanging out with his friends at the skate park, those were some of the best memories he'd had as Jonas. Being Jonas meant not thinking. It meant being a version of himself he didn't think existed. Jonas gave him his emotions back, contorting his brain back to something like normality. Sure, the tooth was killing him. He had headaches which felt like his skull was being split open. But those moments when he forgot he was Kane altogether, when Jonas had taken an unyielding hold of his mind, a poison spreading through him, were peaceful. He was sure of one thing. When the time was right, he would let Jonas fully in. For good. Kane. Lifting his head and drinking in the man's face, Kane groaned internally. Which was exactly what these bastards didn't want. I'm fine. Kane spoke through gritted teeth this time. He shook away Jonas's influence, even if it hurt that he was pushing away his humanity, or at least the precious splinters he'd found himself with. His lips pricked into a smile. He knew the freaks liked that smile. The ones they wanted on screen. He grinned wider until his jaw fucking hurt. Did my fans like me killing that girl? Well, yes. They want you, Kane. Who you started as, and who accumulated all of them in the first place. Brightwood is your playground, if you can think of it like that. Kane lifted a brow. Are you calling me a fucking kid? No, Good. Then I'll rip half of the town apart. If they really want that, I'll start knocking off my classmates. He held out his wrist. Do it again. Stab me with your shit and do it right this time. I want a 10% pay increase too. Holding out his arm in front of the man's face, Kane chuckled. What are you waiting for? I'm not falling for it, you know, the bigwig said, and Kane's smile faded. Fuck, he thought. Busted. You are suffering from daily nosebleeds, Trenta said. Your rapid change of personality is noticeable, no matter how many times you try to hide it. I'm going to say this once, he added in a murmur. If you are lying, and you put yourself at risk, and not just you, but a valuable member of Darkroom and Brightwood, I will personally take you into the Red Room and make sure you come out fixed this time. No matter how many sessions it takes, breaking apart your mind over and over again and piecing it back together. Tell me, you are aware of why you are here, correct? I know exactly what broke you the first time, and if repeating that is what brings you back to your senses, I will do it. Now, for the last time, Kane, Mr. Sinclair, have you been experiencing blackouts? Because, like I said, and will continue to say, that can be rectified with a brand new implant. Rough hands cupped Kane's cheeks, gently cradling them, almost fatherly, until he suddenly jerked Kane to face him. Cruelly. You are a master manipulator, young man, he hummed. But don't think for 1 second that you are fooling us. His eyes were glistening, delirious. Tell me, he breathed when Kane couldn't meet his gaze. Tell me you are sick, Mr. Sinclair. I promise I won't be disappointed. Kane half wondered what it would feel like if he grabbed the pen in front of him and plunged it into his eye socket. Then he might shut the fuck up for good. Instead, he smiled and stood up. Nope, I'm perfectly fine. And you, sir, are paranoid. Dr. Trenta sighed. All right, I will put your behavior down to stress. Kane clapped his hands. Awesome. I should get back. He walked straight into a tall porcelain doll with stringy pigtails. Kane. Sim's smile was full of spite. She blew him an air kiss. Rumor has it our very own Darkroom King has fallen from his impenetrable throne. Go fuck yourself, Sim. She laughed, her heels clattering back down the long, winding hallway. You're just jealous, babes. He left the man before stepping through automatic doors, revealing a girl strapped to the hospital bed, her eyes wide with fright, of vacancy, which made him smile. Peeker, she whispered, her eyes foggy, barely clinging on to clarity. You're an evil Peeker. Annalise Duval, my dizzy thoughts whispered. Kane took slow steps towards her, partly relieved that he still had her to make him feel less Jonas. He reached into the pocket of his jeans and pulled out a knife, spinning it between his fingers. What was your name again, Blondie? When the girl screeched, he chuckled. Oh yeah, Doc told me I took that away. My mistake. But hey, he got closer, his breath in her face. His lips grazed her ear, and I inwardly flinched. I think I'm like sick, he whispered. Just like you. Super sick. Poisoned. Out of my fucking mind. So, if I'm honest, I have no idea who you are or why you're here. You're just the crazy junior girl who keeps being dragged in here because you're being too loud with your craziness. He prodded her on the head. What I do know is that I made a promise to someone really special. And that promise was... He dragged the teeth of the blade down her arm, blood trailing. That I would slowly take you apart, body and mind. I'm pretty sure I succeeded in picking apart your brains, so, as I said, I'll start with the skin of your arm, and then your neck. I'll strip away your flesh until you are nothing but bone, sweetheart. Which is an improvement. His lips curled when pain struck suddenly, cruel and unrelenting. Fuck. Jonas was getting close. Peeker! Annalise whimpered. You're a monster. You made me forget. Your whining is driving me crazy, he suddenly snapped, the knife slipping out of his hands. Mr. Sinclair? A woman, a nurse, hovered behind him. Are you all right? Peachy, he spat through his teeth. Can someone get her out of here? Crazy bitch is fucking with my vibe. His authoritative tone reminded me of how the doctors acted around him when he was first captured. They really did work under his command. When nobody moved, Kane snarled like a wounded animal. He snatched up the knife. I said, now! Mr. Sinclair, you personally requested the girl, the nurse said feebly. You instructed us to keep her here. I did? Kane groaned, burying his head in his hands. Right, I did. Of course I did. Duh. His focus flickered back to Annalise. His eyes stung, flickered. They wouldn't stay open. He sighed. Keep bleeding, Blondie, and I'll make you regret it. You made me forget. The girl's voice cracked, and there was clarity. You made me forget. I made you forget. And I'll keep cutting until there's nothing for you to remember. The girl screamed as the blade cut deeper, until he had peeled away her skin from her arm and held it, dangling it in front of her face. A promise is a promise. Dancing back, Kane saluted her. I'm going away for a while, all right? I'll see you later. Maybe I'll see you when... His expression contorted for a moment, and I sensed that switch he craved. It came with pain, but Kane didn't care. It meant stepping back and not existing for a while. In. The boy dropped to his knees suddenly, a cry tearing from his lips. Agony writhed across the back of his head. I felt the knife slip from our fingers, and he exhaled sharply. It was like coming up for air, fighting with a body which wasn't his, and a consciousness which no longer wanted to be there. I felt another explosion of thoughts enter his mind. These were softer, like warm water coming over him, enveloping the raging fire in his skull. Annalise? He whispered. Then his gaze found the palms of his hands, slick red, grazing over his nose and lips where blood pooled in sharp rivulets. He took slow steps toward her, shaky on his feet. Did I do this? Kane, or Jonas, who had seeped into control, was already feeling fear and confusion. Was it the urge? The girl lurched back, hissing at him. You lie! She sobbed. You lie, you lie, you lie, you lie! You peek like them! What? Mr. Sinclair. He twisted around, his eyes finding a man in white, Annalise. He got out of breath before his gaze found the knife on the floor. What happened to her? Then he was drinking in his surroundings through foggy vision. What is this place? His thoughts were innocent, confused. I could tell why Kane envied him. Is it the emergency room? Did we get into an accident? I could sense his urgency to help her, and he tried to, grasping a hold of the girl's restraints and pulling at them. Before he was being gently led back, and a soaked rag pressed over his mouth and nose. No! Jonas cried out, his screams muffled. I knew it. The same man's voice was a choked laugh. It's the implant. It's taking over him. The man was strangely gentle as I felt our body crumple to the ground before his arms wrapped around our waist. We will fix you. Don't worry. The man spoke softly. I will rectify this. I promise. My own memory slammed into me suddenly, like a cue. Like I was supposed to sense them, the memory of him killing my family and torturing my sister. Annalise. I saw it all in the brightest clarity I had ever seen, like the memories themselves had been altered to be alluring, hypnotizing. And like Kane Sinclair, whose brain had been altered in ways I didn't think possible, the same thing was happening to me right then. Because it didn't stop. The faces of my family, Annalise's pained, crying wide eyes, those of my big sister, played again and again and again. They were riling me up like a dog. When I came to, I was somehow standing in our front yard, a striking pain at the back of my head. My fake mother was standing with breakfast and had invited my friends inside. Hey, Elle, are you ready for school? Jonas, casually holding an axe, and Annalise with a different face. Outside the door, the paperboy rode past, waving cheerily. Morning, Elle. Good morning, dear. Mrs. Jensen, who was collecting her mail, turned to me with a smile. The whole neighborhood greeted me, smiling faces and manic waving arms. Laughter echoed. I didn't need a faulty implant to hear it anymore. Well? Jonas's eyes were challenging. His eyes went straight through me, and I forced a smile. The urge was strangling my brain, telling me to kill him, to rip him apart. But I backed away. I had to get out. Like Charlotte. Yes, I managed to get out. I'm just going to get my things. Well, hurry back, Jonas said, and I heard more laughter. Maybe Annalise, the real Annalise, my sister, was part of it this time. He tapped his imaginary watch, and the laughter continued. Do you really want to get in trouble for being tardy again? The girl replacing Annalise was doing a good job of mimicking her blank stare and twitching hands. I might have fucking believed it if her face hadn't been completely different. Even in my daze, I saw that clearly. Backing away, I smiled at the puppets with human faces, at performers playing my family and friends. I'll be right back, I said, laughter following me as I stumbled up the stairs. I went to the bathroom and tried to escape, just like Charlotte. I had my fingers wrapped around a shattered piece of glass from where I'd punched the mirror, when his voice startled me. And in the jaw-dropping series finale of the Darkroom program, a third Elle meets her doom. Jonas was sitting in the empty bathtub, still in his bloody blue gown from earlier. He turned to me with a wink. Or does she? Despite his expression, he looked vulnerable, knees pressed to his chest. There was something about him, something different, but I couldn't put my finger on it. He crossed his legs casually, mask off. Did you enjoy poking around in my memories? I bet you got a kick out of seeing me beg for my death. There were no bloody smears staining the marble, despite the state of him. It was like I was talking to a memory of him, the version that had been plucked from my mind. He even had the same trickle of crimson running from his nose. Oh, come on, you enjoyed it. You can't lie and tell me you didn't. His lips quirked. You watched me beg and plead for my sanity, and secretly loved it. The boy climbed out of the tub and came nose to nose with me. You want answers, sweetheart? Here you go. His eyes darkened. They want to see you kill me. He stepped closer. I would too. Seeing my parents murdered is bad, but what about from the murderer's perspective? Now that is entertainment. That gets views. That? He smirked. This boy really was insane. Is perfect enemies to lovers. You were just thrust inside the tortured mind of the engineered bad boy who murdered your parents. Stop, I whispered. But wait! He mocked a sob. Cain was trickling in. He has a tragic backstory where he wasn't the bad guy after all. Just a misunderstood, lobotomized sad boy with daddy issues. His expression was hollow. Oh man, I can taste the fanfiction, dude. That's what the public want. It's what they've wanted since I met you in that coffee shop. Since those first chat messages trickled in, and we became the most popular couple trending. Jonas flicked me on the forehead. They want to watch you rip me apart. I ignored his babbling. But you're downstairs. It's better to not ask questions. He took a step back, scanning the room. His demeanor changed. Back to Jonas Isaacs. Unless you want to play a la toxic relationships, we need to find Annalise. I think she's just been transferred from the laugh track room to the red room. So if we want her in one piece mentally and not a brainwashed psycho like me, we should go. Now. How do you know where Annalise is? I have insider information. He nodded to the door. Barricade it. Now. There's a 10-second delay on broadcasting, so they'll be focusing on the rest of the town. He dropped to his knees, lifting the blue rug and tugging it aside to reveal some kind of trap door. Jonas met my eye. Let's go. He winked again, for the camera. Babe. I didn't move. How can I know? I whispered. That it's actually you. He surprised me with a laugh, and I saw both. Psychopathic Cain, an engineered psychopath. And Jonas Isaacs. You can't.